Welcome everyone to our webinar today, Extension Without the Headcount. It's a very deliberate title because after thousands of minutes of conversations with ag organizations across Australia and New Zealand, one challenge keeps coming up, getting research into the hands of the people who need it. What we're going to be talking about today is how that gap gets closed without adding headcount. A couple of housekeeping things. Your mics and cameras are off for this session. If you do have questions at any point, drop it into the Q&A panel and we'll try and come back to as many as we can in the end. So the session will run for about 35 to 40 minutes. My name is Gabe Davila. I'm the head of sales here at Caitlyn AI. I work with grower groups, RDCs, ag organizations across Australia and New Zealand. I have an engineering background and sales background, and I've been in the industry since about 2006. And today I'm really honored to be joined by Shaughn Morgan, who's the CEO of FarmLink Research. Shaughn has spent his career in agricultural advocacy, previously the CEO of New South Wales Farmers and Dairy Connect, before joining FarmLink as CEO in 2024. Shaughn, do you want to say a quick hello?
Thank you, Gabe, and I'm looking forward to joining you and talking about the opportunities Caitlyn AI is providing to FarmLink Research.
Awesome, thank you. Before we get started with the challenges, before we get started with what we're here to see, I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page about extension. It's the core of what we're here to talk about today, and it's the E in the RD&E, and it's part of the workflow that determines whether all of the research and development will actually deliver the value. So this explanation at the start actually comes from all of your websites. I've gone through a lot of the registrants today, and I've gone through your website to what you have decided extension is and what it means to you. And if we summarize it, it's the delivery and communication of locally relevant research to growers, a way for science to reach the paddock and not just the journal. And the grower groups and the farming group systems are at the center of this process. Now, the workflow that we've understood from all our conversations is typically in these 4 steps. The research is conducted, the results are written up, the extension staff communicates the learnings, and then the growers adopt. And in many organizations, a very small team carries that entire responsibility. This gap between the research that exists and the people who need it is only getting harder to close. More research is being produced, but the teams delivering it aren't growing at the same rate. There's a lot of research out there, and some grower groups have 20, 30 years of trials, reports, and publications. And even if you know it exists, it's really hard to find. Extension teams are doing more with the same. In most grower groups, like I said before, the function sits within 1 or 2 people. The membership grows or might not grow, but the research grows, and the expectations from your members grows, but the headcount never grows. Every organization I've spoken to has a version of this story. The same questions keep coming in every season, answered by the same person. It's just not sustainable. And when that person leaves, the clock resets. Years of local knowledge, member relationships and trials and project context, none of that gets written down. It just walks out the door with them. And this is what we're trying to address using Caitlyn and in today's session. Earlier this year, we ran a closed workshop at Evoke Ag with 12 research organizations in the room. This ranged from some RDCs, grower groups, educational institution, and a commercial ag organization. It was a really good cross-section of the people responsible for turning levy payer-funded research into on-farm outcomes. We asked a very specific question: where does the value get lost between research and the paddock? And nearly half the room said the same thing. The research exists, it's just not findable or accessible enough. They didn't say they were after more research, just better access to what's already there. Half the room also defined research value the same way. It's not measured at publication, it's measured at the point of adoption, when a producer changes what they're doing on the farm. We're already seeing what happens when organizations close that accessibility gap. Foundation for Arable Research in New Zealand gave their members direct access to their research library and saw a 50% increase in engagement and 90% drop in time to find answers. It's the same research, just more accessible. This quote at the top of the slide came from one of the participants in that workshop, and it really stayed with me. They said that value only exists when the research is adopted, not just published. It's really the theme across the presentation today. These are 6 challenges we hear most consistently, most commonly, and it's drawn from our 900 plus conversations with ag organizations across Australia and New Zealand over the last 18 months. And it's backed by what we heard directly in the workshop that we ran. This isn't an exhaustive list at all, but it represents what surfaced most consistently across the sector. Research buried in documents is obviously the big one. All that valuable knowledge sitting on a server or a website somewhere doesn't help anybody if you can't find it. And it ties straight back to what we said earlier, that its value is only there if it's adopted, not just published. The language barrier was the next common one. When someone finds the research, it might not be the intended audience that it's written for. It might be for a peer reviewer, for a scientific purpose. And so that it doesn't really land with them. They need it in plain English in some way that they would understand. Then there's the extension bottleneck. With finite resources and finite headcount, staff simply can't scale to meet the growing expectation to get more research into the hands of more farmers and growers. Institutional memory is sometimes overlooked, but it's a risk management benefit. When someone with years of knowledge leaves, that knowledge often leaves with them. Feedback loops are improving with surveys, site visits, and calls and relationship with your members. But most organizations still don't know in real time what their growers are asking for. And finally, we have content production. Writing fact sheets, posts, newsletters, all takes real time that's already stretched thin. So how can we leverage your knowledge to make this happen faster and more efficiently? We're going to have a chat today with someone who lives this challenge every day. Shaughn Morgan is the CEO of FarmLink, a not-for-profit farming system group based in southern New South Wales, representing over 1,200 farming enterprises. Shaughn, welcome.
Thank you, Gabe. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to discussing with you the FarmLink story.
Awesome. Thank you. To get us started, wanted to open it up to your side, and I was hoping you could give us a little overview of FarmLink and what you actually do.
Certainly. FarmLink was formed in 2004 when farmers around our region decided to come together to form a group that could provide a service to them. At the time, government was cutting back in relation to research and innovation and development, as well as extension services. And the farmers within the region thought it would be good if they could form a group, an organisation that could provide that innovation, that technology that wouldn't otherwise be there. The farmers formed a constitution. We've got 4 core objectives, something that I believe very firmly in, the mantra of why we exist. That is to provide research, development, extension, technology, innovation. And as a farming system group, of which we're one amongst many within Australia, and particularly in New South Wales, we have over 20 years of research since 2004 that we can fall back onto. And we've always kept to our core vision to make farming enterprises more productive, more sustainable, and more profitable. And by doing what we do here through trials and projects, we hope that we can provide the latest in technology, the latest in innovation, and the best way for them to be able to make sure their farming enterprises remain profitable.
Awesome. I always, every time you talk about the principle, the core visions that FarmLink has, it really does resonate with me because I think it's a service that you're giving to them, making sure they're profitable, productive, and sustainable. It's like servicing. It's fantastic. So if we talk specifically about the extension side of things, what does extension look like for you and your team day to day?
In many ways, what we do for extension can be extended to most research organisations, particularly farming system groups. They provide the information that farmers require, and also that extends to their advisors and those who are practicing agronomy. We can do it through a number of different ways. We can do it face-to-face, and such things as our field day that's coming up in September, or the machinery day that's done at the beginning of the year in March. But it extends beyond that. It extends, as you said earlier, Gabe, about research that goes back decades, and in some instances well back before a century. And it's about how you can draw upon the information that you have, because farmers are time poor. They don't have the opportunities that we'd like to think that they can go back and, oh, I do remember something that was done back in 2005 on nitrogen, or about soil, or about new varieties of grain. I can't quite remember what that was. And so we've got to look at ways to adopt new technology. At FarmLink, we're redeveloping our website so as to become more engaged. We've got to get back to make ourselves more relevant. We've got to listen to what the farmers need. But the farmers also need to go and find where that information is. And what I like about our discussions, and they've been extremely productive with Caitlyn AI, is the fact that it's a closed loop AI system. It doesn't allow you to go outside of what your data is, what your research is, what you know has been proven to be true. Even those that fail can actually provide a benefit. But how can you get that information other than, as you said earlier, corporate memory? And having closed loop AI as against going out to Google or going to ChatGPT, which you can never know where they get that information from, makes it really difficult to rely upon the information. This mechanism, I think, will be able to do it. And that's why FarmLink has embraced what we're doing with you and what Caitlyn and I have been able to provide to us over the past months.
I think it's a really good point you touched, that it's a closed loop system. I guess that would probably lead me to my next question, which is what made you decide to explore AI in general, especially with those sorts of initial concerns about using AI, going out to the world, getting information, and how did you even start the journey with AI?
Well, as you may recall, I was at Evo 26, where I had the opportunity to meet with your team, Josh, and the other members of Caitlyn AI. And I can say this, your sales pitch was unbelievably great. I mean, the way you were able to express what it is that Caitlyn could do for us and other agricultural organizations and research groups was really spectacular. And I walked away from that in no doubt that this was something that we had to try to embrace. And I came back and we had a board meeting and I spoke to my chairman, Rob McCall, and said to him that we need to be able to move forward. And this is something that young farmers, this is something that the community could use. We don't want to just restrict it to our members. We need to be able to provide a service. And you touched upon it before, and I mentioned it a few moments ago. We're a small team. There's coming to country areas is hard to keep staff. We need to find ways to do that, but that's a different issue for a discussion with other people. But when you do lose that corporate memory, Gabe, it becomes very difficult for us to recall when was done, how it was done, and how do you find it. We put out a yearly research report like most other farming system groups. But if you're no longer here and you don't recall what was said in 2014, let alone what was said last century, you need ways to be able to find that information. It's about finding practical outcomes. It's about making sure that the farming enterprises remain, as I've said before, with our vision, productive, sustainable, and profitable.
Hmm.
It's about engagement.
No, I think you put it really well there. You've touched on a few different topics, and trying to find a solution to keep your staff, to keep them happy, find tools that will still provide effective services for their members. I think it's a really good description of how you're looking at tackling it. I think what I might do is I might end with one last question because, we want to make sure that we cover a few different things and we've got a little demo at the end so we can show a little bit what Caitlyn and FarmLink have been doing together. But what would you say to other grower groups and farming system groups, CEOs or extension teams that are sitting on the fence about AI, just AI in general?
That's a really good question, and there's no easy solution. What I would say is embrace the opportunity, see the new technology, adapt it to be able to make sure that you provide your tools to the farmer, make sure that we're able to maintain the food security within this country that we require. And I'm very excited by what we'll be doing, and I'm very pleased that you'll be showing some examples. And on that note, can I say to all that may be listening to me now, I welcome you to the closed loop AI program, which we've called Flinky. Gabe.
Thanks, Shaughn. Thank you so much. I think what you shared today will really resonate with everyone in the room because it comes directly from someone doing that work day to day, experiencing what they're experiencing and experiencing those challenges as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. So we've talked about the challenges. Now we're going to have a look at how Caitlyn addresses every single one of them using a real example you haven't seen before, but Shaughn just talked about, which is Flinky, their own AI-powered assistant. Before we look at Flinky, we'll have a quick look at Caitlyn, the technology behind Flinky. I just want to be clear, Caitlyn isn't ChatGPT. It's not a generic chatbot pulling from the internet, as Shaughn was saying. Everything Caitlyn knows comes from your content and only your content. It's an agentic platform designed to scale the work of your best people. And we're building it for regulated, knowledge and process-heavy industries where data sovereignty matters and there are no rooms for misinformation. In this context, it's an AI-powered knowledge base that turns your organization's research into and reports and podcasts and videos and all of your content into a natural language conversational AI. And your members and staff can ask questions in plain language and get instant sourced answers without having to search through documents or find it on the internet. And natural language means exactly that. You can ask it in plain English and it strips out the technical jargon, or you can ask it in your own native language because it is multilingual. Every answer gets the source cited, so your members aren't just getting an answer, they're getting something that they can trust. And then, of course, there's the agentic capabilities. This is really what sets Caitlyn apart. It goes beyond answering just questions. It can guide users through structured workflows. It can connect to external systems, and it can even push that information back to your systems. It can retrieve live data. So think of it as hiring an expert in your organization that has all of your institutional knowledge and is available 24/7. What we're going to do is we're going to ask these 3 questions of Flinky. And again, it's always drawing from the information from FarmLink that they've created. And these 3 examples have different purposes. And I want to tie them back to the challenges that we were talking about before. So the first question, we're reviewing our nitrogen program for next season. What did FarmLink's risk-wise trials find out about the end strategies? And now this ties back to the research buried in documents. The trial data here can span 20, 30 years, and it include different sites and different reports. Now, Flinky is able to pull all of these key findings instantly, and it even sometimes pulls case studies or other documents you weren't expecting it to surface. And what could have taken a long time for extension officers before takes seconds using Flinky. The second question is one of our members asked about the Resilient Pasture Systems trial. Please give me that in plain English for a grower. So I'm on the behalf of the extension team asking a question for a grower. And what we're trying to do here is turn a technical report into practical decision-ready advice. And that way it can tell us what we need to know in language that's easy to understand. The last one here is more of a generative AI specifically for the extension team. If you're creating a workshop, you want to make sure that it's always based on your knowledge. So the question is create a 1-day workshop plan based on the multi-species pastures case study. So it's not just answering questions, it's using generative AI to create that workshop for you, making sure that it's got the timing, the learning outcomes, and the structure, and always grounded on FarmLink's own case study. So I'm going to show you what Flinky looks like. This is Flinky, and what we can see here is it's been branded, it's been white labeled, and we're able to ask it questions. We can see the history of the questions that we've asked. And so what we're going to do is, in this case, we're just going to copy and paste a question. So once we ask the question, the same question that I was asking before, we can click enter. And what it's actually going to do is it's breaking down the question. It first needs to understand what we're actually asking. It breaks it down into different sections of the question. Then it matches what's in your knowledge base. And once it matches what's in your knowledge base, it puts all of these sources together and gives us an answer, what we call synthesizing an answer in the format that we're asking for. But the key here is that once it gives us the answer, it'll always give us a citation for each of the statements that it makes. And so you can see here that it's given us an answer. I didn't specifically ask it for any format, but it's given us a pretty worded answer. It's covering a lot of information, and it gives us a list of sources at the bottom. And you can see here that there is a case study. I didn't ask it about a case study, but it did actually surface it for me. And what we can see here is each of the statements has a citation or a citation number. If we hover over that, now we know exactly where that statement came from and which report it is. You can see the snippet, or you can click on that and it'll actually show you exactly which report it was and where in the report it gave you that information, always highlighted. And so you can get the context before and after that. So this is able to get all of these sources and synthesize it into one answer. If we look at the second question that we were talking about, it was too technical. So we want to make sure that it gives us an answer that is a little bit easier to understand in plain language. So if we just paste this answer here, this question here, it's going through the same process every single time. It'll always look inside your knowledge base. It doesn't go out into the internet, and all of that information is from a trustworthy source. So once it's broken down all of the questions, it's evaluating the search and it'll generate the answer. This is a specific request though, because I asked for a simplified version of the answer. Don't give me any technical jargon. And so now we'll get an idea of what the results are from this trial, but in language that is easier to understand. And I will let you read that, or you can take a screenshot later, but you can trust me that it is a simplified answer. I did go through these questions with FarmLink before. But it always keeps the same process. If there's multiple sources, it'll give you both of them as well. You can read this to me. So if you want to hear the answer rather than reading it, you can actually click on this as well. I think the last one here is really important for us because this is a day-to-day activity that extension team are doing. So we're going to ask it a final question, and it's going to be about creating workshop. So the reason I'm actually asking the questions is because you can actually see that this is happening in seconds. This is a live demonstration. I've always been told not to do live demonstrations in a webinar, but here I am doing a live demonstration on a webinar for you. So it's working. So once it's grabbed the case study that we're after, it took our instructions that we want session topics and timing. It's broken it down for me. It's giving me the whole workday plan. It's giving me the morning sessions, breaking it down. And every single time, each statement is always backed by a source. So even the workshop plan that we've given it. So this is what I wanted to show you. This is how it's going to be useful for the internal team. This is how it's going to be useful for the actual farmers and growers that are requiring this information. They want this information but don't know where to find it. You can ask questions and get that in a format that they understand and that they can adopt. So with this, what I might do is I'll go back to my presentation. If you have questions, like I said, keep throwing it into the Q&A panel. We can come back to it later. Before we finish the demo, I wanted to show you one more thing, which is the insights report sitting behind Flinky. This is a snapshot of a month's worth of activity. This is just some other data. This is not Flinky's data. Don't want to share that. That belongs to Flinky. Caitlyn's automatically creating topic clusters and showing what your members are asking for, what the sentiments are, and more importantly, it surfaces the questions that aren't being answered well. And it tells you exactly where your gaps exist in your knowledge base and whether that content needs to be created or the research undertaken, or whether you have that information in your archive somewhere that you can add into the knowledge base. This is the feedback loop we were talking about earlier, but in real time. So you don't have to wait for the survey to be filled out or the site visit. You can get what's on your members' minds instantly. We'll be rolling this out very soon, and it will continue to develop and get better. And you'll be able to turn all of the insights into actual action for yourselves. So that's it. That's what we wanted to cover today. We wanted to cover all the challenges that we've heard from the conversations that we've had over the last 18 months. I'm not going to read this slide. I think that I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see all of the information in one slide. If you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot. But you didn't just hear it from me. You didn't hear it from all the research and conversations that I've had. You heard it from Shaughn as well, and you saw it live with Flinky.
I think, Gabe, what you've shown there is the very reason why this is so important for research organisations like us. It shows that we're able to provide immediate answers to questions that farmers may have or other researchers may need. And it's a tool. Like any tool, it is really dependent upon the person that uses it. But the demonstration, I think, shows why FarmLink Research is very proud to be a part of the relationship with Caitlyn. And I look forward to us continuing to develop it as we move forward. I think that this has been extremely worthwhile in many ways.
I appreciate you coming on and having a chat with us, Shaughn. I think it's always interesting from my side. I come from a sales and engineering background. I've worked with agricultural manufacturers before, but it always makes a lot more. It makes it a lot more relevant when someone from the industry is able to share their pains and their challenges that they walk through day to day, and a particular solution that's able to help out as well.
But like any farming system group, we're only here to serve the needs of those who are our members and the farmers within the footprint that we serve. We need to listen to their needs. It's not us advising them, it's them telling us what we need to go out and do, how we find and use the levy money that they are giving to their RDCs. And this is but another extension of the opportunities. And as we develop the website, as the Caitlyn AI program with Flinky continues to earn its own stripes, we'll be able to put this onto a FarmLink app. We'll be able to provide information that's more of a summary. And this, I think, is really relevant for other organizations, for other CEOs who may be thinking one way or the other. The opportunities that this provides is embracing new technology. It's bringing young farmers in, and it's allowing older farmers to learn new tricks, new trades of what they could otherwise do. It's a great tool. It's a great asset. It's one that FarmLink is very proud to be, I believe, at the cutting edge.
No, I agree with that. I think it's a really good point that you're making about that we are servicing for others. We like to take the same mantra internally at Caitlyn. All of our developments within Caitlyn come directly from the users and the customers. So when we talk about changing and adding features like the insights report, even like a WhatsApp integration, having that WhatsApp integration didn't come from us. It actually came from a customer that says, I want to use Caitlyn and WhatsApp. Our members are much more comfortable with WhatsApp, so we would like to see it on WhatsApp, and we were able to do that because it was a request. So yes, exactly. It's all about the service of your members and your customers.
And that's a great extension. And that's another way that this will continue to develop. It will evolve. It's organic. It's not going to stay static. And I think that's really important as we move forward. Circumstances are changing. We saw that with the Middle East earlier this year. The price of urea, the cost of diesel, it skyrocketed. It made people suddenly change their cropping plans. It made different approaches necessary, and having access to data that they know they can rely upon, because it's not going to the world at large, it's reliant upon the information that's been curated to be provided, I think is vital for farmers to make informed decisions about ways in which their farm stays profitable, sustainable, and productive.
Well said, Shaughn. You're always a very, very good speaker. I always learn a lot talking to you.
We learn from each other, Gabe. It's not a one-way street, that's for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think there wasn't too many questions today. Hopefully we covered everything really well, and that's why there's no questions. So what we'll do is I wanted to leave this slide at the end. You feel free to scan the QR code that'll take you to our website. I'm happy to set up a free trial for anyone that joins us today. So we will be able to do a 2-week trial, put in some of your documents so you can actually see what Caitlyn looks like with your own documents rather than seeing other examples. If you want to take a deeper look on what Caitlyn looks like in practice, we actually did a webinar last week. It was a customer showcase webinar showing all of the new features and what's coming up in Caitlyn. We'll drop a link when we send out the email so that you can check it check it out, or you can jump on our YouTube channel. There's a lot more stuff there as well. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Shaughn for sharing the FarmLink story with us. Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Thank you.